feel about Dr. Emoto's study on water?
You're assuming I know what you're talking about.
Well, if you're unfamiliar with it, I'll give you a second to do a quick little
Water
research.
consciousness.
Correct. And more scientists. This is over 35 years old. And many people via social media, kids,
Human
and
consciousness could affect the molecular structure of water. Yeah, I don't buy that.
it's not could, it's been proven. And after he showed his theory, more scientists, not a lot, because most scientists turn the other cheek when it comes to evidence of proving them wrong. But more scientists did actually, in fact, research it, and they found it to be true. You can do a study yourself. It's like third grade science project. You can take it.
Let's just assume it's true. Therefore, what? Is it just interesting,
Jesus,
or
no,
what?
because Jesus says we are the living water.
So, with the
You're
fact
denying
that
God.
supposedly consciousness can manipulate water proves a claim that says nothing
But
about
before
that.
1996, was there a study that proved that? I mean, look, that's almost 30 years old, and you were unaware
So,
of that.
did Jesus say that consciousness can manipulate
No,
water?
Jesus says, I am the water.
Okay, so that has nothing to do with consciousness and has nothing to do with the manipulation of water.
Well, the reason why I brought it up to you, well, there's many references of water in the Bible. You don't believe the Bible, so I'm going scientific with you. There's a study that
There's
was done almost 30 years ago that you were unaware of, but you're sitting here and saying, prove this, prove A, B, and C, this is wrong, that's right. But how are you not aware of the consciousness that water is actually proven to be living? If you like, you can
It's
do it.
not
It's a
living.
third, it's a,
We know what
it's
living
not.
we know what living is, and water isn't living.
Research some more. How are you explaining that when you just discovered the scientific theory
I know
60
I
seconds
know
ago?
the I
And
know
you're
the
answering.
properties of life, and we have a scientific description of life, and I know that water doesn't do that. Water doesn't replicate, for example.
Just 60 seconds ago, you didn't know that water, the study
I
that
didn't
Dr.
know of a
Emoto,
claim that is
it's
rejected
not a claim, it's scientific study.
by the consensus of scientists that consciousness manipulates water. Again,
Okay, so then
that
how are
also
you
has
able
nothing
to
to do
speak
with the
about it?
idea that water is alive.
Okay, here's a third grade science project you can try for yourself. Boil a pot of water, a pot of rice. Put them in 3 containers. Speak goodness on one and speak down on the other. And as crazy as it seems, it's been scientifically proven, dude. It's the same concept of the water.
That if you speak to water, that if you speak to rice, what rice will be spoken to?
No, it's not,
There was no conclusion in what you just said.
because you covered
You
your
said if
face
you
and you
speak to
decided to
rice
stop
nicely
listening.
and speak to other rice angrily, and then you just stopped.
You stop listening. But if you speak
No,
to
you stopped there.
okay, one will retain its natural state for the most part, and the other will go terribly wrong, and it'll catch mold. Basically, it's the same principles of the water. It's the same scientist, Dr.
Okay,
Emoto
I
from
promise
Japan
you I will do
in the
this.
90s.
I promise you I will do this after I get off the phone here. Now, I'm going to do this experiment, and when nothing happens, what's going to be the excuse?
Scientists have already done it. You can go and
Then why'd you
watch
tell me
their
to do
research.
it?
Because apparently, what you seeing is believing. That's why I told you to do it. Because you covered your
So,
hands and your face in
when I
disbelief.
do this and nothing happens, what's going to be the excuse?
There is no excuse. It's reality.
So, when
Look
I
it up.
don't get these results, you're saying it. So, are
Everyday
you
average
saying
people have
there
done it
is a
before.
0% chance that when I do this, there will not be mold in the rice that I make, that I call stupid poo poo head?
Go research it. It's all pertaining to cells.
How
See,
long do
same
I
as
have
your
to?
body is made up of water. Those
How
same
long do I
cells
have
in
to
your
let the
body.
rice sit?
A few weeks.
A few weeks.
Why is that so crazy?
In a
Here's
fridge or
another.
outside?
Here's a. No, indoors is fine. You just put it in a sealed, contained jar. Researchers
Yeah.
have done
Should
that.
I leave it on the counter or should I
It's
leave it
not some magic hocus pocus, because lack of knowledge. Same people that don't know what they're talking about. I'm not saying you in particular. Lack of knowledge is a huge disadvantage to people. People should learn. They should learn to open up their minds. This is real fact. Doctors have been doing this since the 90s. Here we are in 2023. Nobody knows about this. People are laughing in the chat. You didn't even know about it. But here's this. Everybody knows how to do a selfie,
Not,
but they don't
not
know.
knowing of claims is so saying, oh, you didn't
People need to
know
educate
about this
themselves. That's the
claim.
point.
A claim is not proof of something.
It is proof. He did testing under microscopes with the water.
Okay, so I'm gonna take some rice. This is what I'm going to do. I'm gonna take rice, boil it, put it in different containers. In the rice in one container, I'm gonna say nice things to it. In rice in a different container, I'm gonna do nothing except put it in the container. And in the other container, I'm gonna say very nasty things to that rice. I'm gonna leave it out, and you're telling me the one that I say nasty things to will get mold first.
Correct. Or more, it'll look more worse off than the one that you spoke good to. Meaning
That's
words have
completely
power.
subjective.
Yes.
Will it get mold first?
You got to do the testing yourself.
Okay, that's great.
And you could do some research on it. Here's another thing
That's great.
with the theory of carbon testing and bones.
Well,
being millions
before we
and-
get to carbon testing, assuming that this is true, what is causing? I get it that I said nasty things to the rice, but so what? What makes the rice go moldy first?
the same principles on the water testing, that waters have molecules that respond positiveness and to negativeness, just like everything is based on water.
That's fine. What about the carbon thing?
Bones are considered millions of years old.
We
from
don't use carbon
testing.
dating to date million-year-old bones. We never
Okay.
have.
Here's an analogy. You have a
But
guy
we don't
traveling-
do the thing that you're talking about.
Excuse me?
I already don't want to hear your analogy because you're saying here's an analogy that proves that carbon dating million-year-old bones doesn't work. We don't carbon date million-year-old bones, so it's a non-starter.
Okay. Well, in any analogy, if I give you a candle that's lit in a room, and I ask you how long has it been lit, it burns an inch an hour, and you tell me how long it's been burning and where it originally started from. How are you going to know where it started from?
If you know how long the candle was, you can know that.
But that's my point. You don't know how long the candle was, just like you don't know the age of a fossil.
Yeah, we do because we have isochron dating methods, for example.
Okay.
And
more on the fossils.
carbon dates have been correlated with tree ring data and archaeological sites.
Fair
for
enough.
example.
I'll give you that one, but I have another question on the fossils. 9 or 10 years ago, I think her name is Schweitzerman. There was a scientist.
Mary Schweitzer,
Correct.
the
Who
T-Rex
discovered-
tissue.
Yes.
Yeah, that was first found in 1997.
Nonetheless, I believe it's 2000, early 2012 or 13, maybe even 14. But anyway, if these fossils are quote unquote millions of years old, how
They are.
is elasticity tissue?
The tissue
Surviving.
wasn't elastic.
You sure? She says it herself.
Yes. No, it was rehydrated and it had some flexibility to it. So here's the thing. I'm glad, I'm happy to go over this because I wrote about this in my book also. But if dinosaur fossils are a couple thousand years old, then finding organic remains should be overwhelmingly the majority, not the 1 in a billion exception.
Is
Do
that
you not
they
accept
only,
that?
they only found organic remains 1 out of a billion fossils?
It's
Is that your
probably
number?
more like 1 out of 10
Scientists
million.
go by numbers, so is that your number? 1 in 1 billion they found?
I would guess it's closer to 1 in 10 million.
So they found 10 million dinosaur fossils and only one.
One
Has-
dinosaur has hundreds of bones. We have
But
we have
you're
tens of
saying that they only
thousands of
discovered.
dinosaur specimens. So yeah, if you find a T-Rex and you find 208 bones, you have 208 fossils.
Okay, so your claim is they only found one with living tissue. Even
I
the
didn't say it
person,
was
the
one. I said the
paleontologist who
ratio
discovered it,
is going to be something close to 1 in 10 million.
but even the paleontologist who discovered it, she was also baffled. She couldn't believe her finding.
No, she could believe it.
No, she didn't. She had to retest. Other scientists came in and they questioned her testing and they did their
Yeah, and
own
she published
testing
the
that there
findings,
was
so she obviously
actually,
believes it.
but she
Okay,
didn't believe it in the
I
beginning.
can just read
When
about this if you want.
it was called a discovery. It was called a discovery when she first discovered it. And when
So
she initially discovered it, she was in disbelief
yeah, it was very surprising, and then they tested it and they confirmed this is what's
because
going
it
on.
wasn't
So
supposed to be,
now we know that
because
that
it
is
baffled scientists.
lots of things
They still don't have
baffle
answers.
scientists.
There's speculation still to today,
Accelerating in its expansion.
but still till today, you claim 1997. I believe it to be somewhere around 10 years old. But if you're
It's
arguing the
happened more
fact that
than
it's even
once. And
older,
I have the
still
sources
right.
from Mary Schweitzer herself. In 1997 and in 2005, they found organic remains in dinosaur bones. I can give you link. I can cite you the
Okay.
articles. I have them right in front of me.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that argument. That's 26 years ago, correct? Still, until today, they only have speculation and no actual proof how that is happening with 65 million
No,
year
they
fossils.
do, particularly for the I believe it's hemoglobin
No.
structures. They get trapped in these iron structures that are present in hemoglobin, and that preserves them very well. There are scientific papers that have written about this. But just to
Those are all speculation.
no, they're not speculation. It's backed up by scientific data. So just to let me just read from this. So, sensationalized
Go ahead.
reports claimed the tissue was still flexible. That's not the case. The tissue was rehydrated after being extracted from the surrounding mineral matrix. So, after being rehydrated, they found it was still able. What is remarkable is traces of blood vessels and individual cells could be seen in some samples collected by none other than Jack Horner, but the cells were not actually preserved cells. Instead, they were mineralized structures in the place where cells had been. They also, the rest of this doesn't exactly have to do with that. But again, the point is, if dinosaur fossils are actually only a few thousand years old, then why on earth we find organic remains of certain animals, but it's always animals that are very, very, very close to things that have been found frozen, or the animals found in the tar pits in La Brea, bog bodies, and stuff like that. We do find organic tissue in those things. The fact that some remnants of organic things have been found twice in the entire dinosaur fossil record is not evidence that therefore the dinosaur fossils are young, because it ought to be the norm, not the 1 in a million or 1 in 10 million exception. The mathematical logic here doesn't work at all.
Do you believe in the laws of attraction?
I mean, you're kind of cute. I
Do
know
you
that.
believe in the laws of attraction? It's a yes or no question.
The longer you stay in here, the deeper I believe in it.
So you don't believe in the laws of attraction?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Yeah.
So you believe if you will something, like The Secret is based on the laws of attraction?
Yeah, I actually have literally no clue what you're trying to say. The law of attraction? What is it? Scientific laws are describable using mathematical equations. So what's the law of attraction?
You never heard of the best-selling book from 15 years ago, The Secret? I
I
thought you
read
were just
I read
well-educated author.
nonfiction, so I don't. This doesn't sound like something I would read.
You only read nonfiction, but you're coming up
Pretty
here
much. I
giving
mean, I've read
facts.
Shakespeare, and I'm reading the Bible currently, and some other things. But
Wow. Okay. Well, scientists discovered that in every human being, there's this microscopic, so small that they can't even measure it, light beam inside every human body.
something that can't be measured has been discovered scientifically.
I didn't say can't be measured. I said
Yes.
small, almost cannot be measured.
Okay, maybe you did say almost. So it can be measured.
Of course, if they're finding it, how would they find something if it can't be measured?
I don't know, but that's what I thought you said. So shame on me for having poo
Okay.
poo ears.
What is that light? Are you not educated?
Midichlorians?
Okay. Jesus says, I am in the light. Every person is living in.
He said I am the way, the truth, and the light.
Okay. And
Which
if
which
you,
so
if
what
you
he did
ask me
not
to come in,
so what he did not say is inside of every human there's an almost immeasurable amount of light. So you haven't proven anything. This is what flat earthers do. They say all of
I'm
the
not, a,
all of
I'm
the
not talking
numbers
about flat earth.
associated with the globe earth are satanic.
It's been
For
proven
example, did you know that
scientifically.
gravity was invented in 1666? Well, that's weird because the number 1666 is not the number 666. And what you're saying is exactly like that.
So you're discrediting scientists that discovered a
This is what
microscopic light
what you're talking
living
about
in every
isn't
human
science,
being.
or it's either not science, misunderstood science, or just a complete fabrication.
Okay. Why don't you Google it? I'll give you the few minutes to check it out. They're internal and external on our cells as well.
Scientists found light inside of humans.
Just put scientific evidence of light in a human body.
So what do you mean by light?
Check it out. It's
What do
called,
you
I think
mean
it's
by
called
light?
bioluminescence. I think
Bioluminescence?
correct.
Past research has shown. So do you know what a black body curve is?
Keep reading.
Yeah, so past research has shown that the body emits visible light 1,000 times less intense than the level to which our naked eyes are sensitive. So do you know what black body radiation is?
Okay, but that's the internal part. You'll find less and less research, but they are proven on the internal part as well. That's the external part. But see,
Okay.
the problem is that mainstream media, scientists,
Okay. So we have known this for so long that we have a light spectrum that goes from radio waves to gamma rays. Any object above a temperature that is above absolute zero will have a black body curve. Now, certain objects, like a human being, I don't know if a human being releases any gamma rays. Maybe they do. They would be in quantities that are just unfathomably small, right? But literally any object has this black body curve. And for a human that's fairly warm, we emit most of our energy in the infrared range, but we will emit energy in ranges above that, just in very small quantities. For example, the sun, you may think the sun is bright, all it makes is light. Well, that's visible light. But the fact that when you go outside it's warm, that's because the sun also produces infrared light, electromagnetic radiation. It also produces radio waves and gamma rays and X-rays and microwaves and all of those kinds of things. So the idea that human beings, which release most of our energy in the spectrum that is literally right next to visible light, isn't surprising. Also, Jesus didn't say, humans release electromagnetic radiation of wavelengths slightly smaller than infrared. He said, I'm the way, the truth, and the light, which means nothing. It means literally nothing, that is, which means it can be used to say whatever you want.